Watch today's video until the end, because there is information at the end that not everyone knows. And subscribe to the channel now to get such videos regularly. With 6 Emmy Awards under his belt, Harris Faulkner has been one of Fox News' most dependable voices for decades. She has established a reputation for authority and expertise while remaining composed in the most intense situations. Beneath that polished exterior, however, is a life molded by personal tragedy, terrifying experiences, and events that almost permanently altered her profession. Additionally, a more profound question was posed when she abruptly moved away from the television. What did viewers never witness that Harris Faulkner had to go through off-camera? Veteran Fox News anchor Harris Faulkner, who was well known for her commanding presence on daytime television and political coverage, abruptly left the spotlight in late 2025, leaving viewers and media observers curious about her whereabouts. The 6-time Emmy winner has been a regular on Fox News since 2005, but from November 2025 to January 2026, she abruptly stopped appearing on the Faulkner Focus and other regular shows. She explained that she needed to take care of some serious personal issues. However, this raised a lot of doubts, and people began to wonder what Harris Faulkner's true fate was. Following the 2024 U.S. election cycle and the 2025 presidential inauguration, there was a period of intensive news attention before to the break. In Faulkner's nearly 2-decade career as a Fox News anchor, this was the first extended absence. Her abrupt departure from the media sparked conjecture on social media and in business circles. The reasons behind her departure and the implications for her future in broadcast journalism were questioned by many viewers and critics. Faulkner said in a statement released just before her vacation that her time away was a purposeful step toward family support and personal development rather than a retreat. She clarified that helping her oldest daughter, Bella Berlin, with her college education was one of her top concerns during the vacation. For her family, this was a significant turning point that was both joyful and difficult. Faulkner also talked about starting what she described as a romantic rebirth journey with her husband, Tony Berlin. She disclosed that after years of juggling demanding assignments with family and work obligations, she and her spouse wanted to get back in touch. Fans and co-workers gathered around Faulkner's declaration. Everyone was taken aback by her openness and readiness to take time off work for her family's welfare, but many others concentrated on the larger discussion because her abrupt leave highlighted the significance of work-life balance and mental health. This was particularly true for public figures like Harris Faulkner, who frequently have to balance the demands of both work and family. However, there have also been some family issues as a result of the split. She disclosed on television in late 2025 and early 2026 that her daughter had to go through some horrible experiences, which contributed to her decision to temporarily step away from her network responsibilities. Veteran Fox News anchor Harris Faulkner gave a series of intensely personal on-air observations in late 2025 and early 2026 that provided unique insight into the emotional challenges underlying her recent hiatus from broadcasting. Faulkner, a well-known person at Fox since 2005, stated that she wished to address serious family issues. Her daughter's experiences are one of these worries, and they generated a lot of conversation among viewers and media commentators. Faulkner acknowledged that the horrible experiences her girls have had in recent years, which she described as painful and formative, were a factor in her decision to take a vacation. She stated that protecting herself and helping her kids overcome these difficulties is her first priority, but she didn't disclose everything that had occurred. The anchor has long expressed her private concerns about her daughter's security and welfare in the face of the demands of a prominent public life. Faulkner has previously discussed the challenging discussions she has had with her 2 mixed daughters, Bella and Danica, on race, identity, and faith in the divided United States. Her worries are in line with her previous public statements from 2025, in which she expressed her anxiety about the impact that racial and religious tensions can have on college students and society at large. Her own children's real-world struggles were the source of these anxieties. Faulkner also emphasized the emotional cost of significant life changes, particularly when her oldest daughter Bella got ready to start college. She described this shift as one of the most difficult realities of her life. In addition, she was helping her younger daughter navigate the competitive world of athletics, where bias and fairness are major concerns for today's young players. She was able to address her long-standing mom guilt after taking a vacation from the anchor desk. She suffered greatly from missing significant events as a result of her demanding profession and the harsh criticism from others. After a short break, she is now getting ready to return to television. However, this is not the tragedy that has caused Faulkner to be absent from the air for some time. She was horrified to learn of her father's death during the COVID-19 pandemic. Faulner has candidly discussed how the death of her father, retired Lieutenant Colonel Bobby R. Harris, was one of the most significant personal losses of her life and how it put her faith and fortitude to the test. In the midst of the isolating circumstances of the COVID-19 epidemic, she disclosed that the loss of her father on Christmas Day 2020 was an extremely sad event that changed her spiritual path. Faulner referred to her father as her lifelong role model and North Star in interviews in her memoir, saying that his influence permeated both her personal and professional ethos. Her sense of grief was exacerbated by the fact that she was unable to witness him in his last moments because her death occurred during a time of severe pandemic restrictions. Faulner said that she had significant difficulties with her religion in the weeks that followed. She acknowledged that she lost the spiritual stability she had depended on since childhood and began to cry more and pray less. When she found his annotated Bible while packing her father's things, she finally managed to get over her grief. Handwritten meditations on scripture that had supported him throughout his life were scattered throughout the book. Faulner felt comfort and a sense of belonging in his interpretations and to her father in faith as she perused his writings. She later claimed that reading his words seemed like the pieces of her life were being pieced back together after being shattered, and that this experience was a time of spiritual realignment. Faulner has been candid about this period of her life, particularly the ways in which her father's legacy continues to influence her sense of purpose, strength, and faith. However, there were other tragedies that made her doubt her religion. She also had to deal with her mother's passing a few years prior. Faulner has also discussed how her life and profession were affected by the passing of her mother, Shirley Harris. In November 2016, Shirley Harris lost her fight with severe lung cancer. Faulner witnessed this battle firsthand and helped her mother as a caregiver in the last stages of her sickness. Faulner's perspective and comprehension of faith, love, and sorrow were profoundly impacted by the event. Faulner praised Shirley for teaching her the ideals that ultimately led her through life and into a prominent media profession, describing her relationship with her mother as unbreakable. She has written that she missed her mother so much that it physically pains her heart, and she has talked about the intense sensation of absence that followed her death. This sincere statement highlighted both the strength of her bond and the long-lasting emotional impact of her mother. Faulner really admired her mother's fortitude, kindness, and religion, all of which influenced the development of her own work ethic. Faulner relied on the qualities of compassion, resiliency, and service that she was raised with throughout her mother's sickness and the years that followed. In interviews, she discussed how her mother had urged her to face life's obstacles head-on and to help and console people despite her own struggles. Faulner gained a unique insight on the psychological effects of a major illness from her experience taking care of her mother in her last months. She applied this knowledge and expertise to her profession, particularly when reporting on the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the fact that she was unaware that she would cover the worldwide competition and lose her father. Her mother's passing continues to be a pivotal moment in her life. Faulner has given her audience a glimpse into the inner bravery that underpins her public image through her life story. She has surmounted several obstacles, such as being stalked by an ex-boyfriend, with the help of her family. Faulner experienced a terrifying stalking situation prior to becoming a well-known Fox News anchor, which had a long-lasting effect on both her personal and professional lives. In the 1990s, while working as an evening anchor at WDF-TV in Kansas City, Faulner was subjected to persistent harassment by a previous partner who was unwilling to let go of her. From North Carolina to Kansas, the man trailed her. The fact that he was following her every step and intensifying his actions made it all the more terrible. He was merely giving her flowers and contacting her often at start, but things soon became worse. The stalker began to visit Faulner's home. She threatened her with unwanted attention while spending time outside her apartment. He sent a terrifying message about his persistentness and contempt for limits when he keyed and destroyed her automobile. This was one of the most disturbing periods of Faulner's life, she recalled. At a time when she was developing her career and attempting to establish herself in television news, it undermined her self-confidence. When the man broke into her house and violated her feeling of security, the stalking took an even more terrifying turn. That time, a police reaction resulted from Faulner's screams warning the neighbors. In the end, he was taken into custody. Even after being imprisoned, the intruder remained obsessed with her. According to Faulner, learning of his release from prison saved her life by enabling her to take preventative measures that she might not have otherwise thought to take. Had it not been for the warning, the experience would have turned out quite differently. Faulner overcame her struggle by relying heavily on her inner strength and faith, which has become one of her life's challenges and experiences. In addition to her personal life, Faulner has experienced trauma in her work, such as when she covered a terrible incident. Faulner has been candid about the emotional toll of reporting on some of the worst periods in recent American history, particularly her live coverage of the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary shooting. On December 14, 2012, she was in Newtown, Connecticut, where the community was dealing with the fallout from the horrific mass shooting that killed 6 adults and 20 young children. One of her most terrifying projects to date is this one. Faulner, who was reporting live from the school's parking lot, subsequently recalled the event as being emotionally overpowering and painfully heavy. She saw the arrival of hearse carrying victims' bodies. She intuitively called for a moment of quiet on broadcast rather than just presenting the facts, allowing viewers to join her in processing the magnitude of the tragedy. One of the most challenging times in Faulner's career was reporting Sandy Hook, she said in interviews following her assignment. She acknowledged that the scene's emotional impact had even caused her to cry on the spot. Although journalists are expected to maintain composure, Faulner clarified that there are instances in which the human cost of such incidents is too great to handle. As long as she could continue to tell the story honestly and sympathetically, she stated that she was willing to show her vulnerability to the public. Faulner experienced severe trauma as a result of the assignment, which influenced how she would handle catastrophes in the future. It also strengthened her conviction that professionalism and humanity must coexist. She did, however, interview the president during one of America's worst periods. A noteworthy interview that Faulner did with then-President Donald Trump during the height of the Black Lives Matter demonstrations after George Floyd's death in 2020 garnered a lot of attention. She received recognition in the media for combining professionalism, journalistic bravery, and personal insight. Faulner challenged Trump directly about his contentious tweet and questioned him about how he responded to the widespread turmoil during the live sit-down. The shooting begins as soon as the looting begins. However, this was seen as inflammatory by many critics. Rather than allowing the remark to remain unquestioned, she questioned him about its causes and ramifications, outlining its alarming historical background. She actually had a back-and-forth conversation about leadership and race with the audience. She centered her questions on her experiences as a parent and a black woman, which made the interview unique as well. She highlighted how various people's reactions to times of national crisis depend on their identity and history by bringing these viewpoints into the interview. She once discussed the emotional impact of George Floyd's last comments and how it resonated with her on a personal level. Faulner's analytical and sympathetic attitude was praised by many journalists and professionals. She balanced the conversation rather than taking an antagonistic or deferential position. As a top anchor for Fox News, this is only one of her many career highlights. Faulner has some noteworthy moments from his career as a reporter covering some of the biggest news stories of the last few decades. She has been the anchor of several shows since joining Fox News in 2005, including Outnumbered and Faulner Focus. Additionally, she has covered an astounding variety of tales that define the pinnacles of her career. Early in her career, Faulner covered the AIDS crisis in South Africa, highlighting the epidemic's terrible effects on populations distant from the U.S. and demonstrating her readiness to take on challenging global subjects. Additionally, she covered the 2005 disappearance of Natalie Holloway in Aruba, a case that made headlines across the world and captivated the public for years as police attempted to solve the mystery behind the young woman's disappearance. Additionally, Faulner helped portray the scope of the catastrophe and the tenacity of the impacted communities when reporting from the scene following the Oklahoma City bombing. These kinds of assignments highlight Faulner's depth and adaptability as a journalist. In addition to covering international crises and criminal puzzles, she has covered significant domestic events as well as human interest topics such as U.S. natural catastrophes and domestic and international political developments. During her tenure, she has also moderated high-profile town halls, conducted interviews with elected leaders and presidents, and covered subjects that call for both journalistic rigor and sympathetic comprehension. Faulner stands out for her ability to strike a balance between sensitivity to the human aspects of the issues she covers and straightforward, fact-based reporting. Her work demonstrates her dedication to providing viewers with a complete understanding of events, whether she is expressing the seriousness of a global health issue or the suffering of families affected by tragedy. She has discussed her work as an experienced journalist and how she influences public opinion. Faulner has frequently discussed what it means to be a well-known black woman in the national news media. She has explained how her work fits within a larger narrative of development and transformation in an industry that has historically been homogeneous. As the only black woman hosting a daily show on a major cable news network, Faulner has acknowledged that her very presence on screen carries symbolic weight that goes beyond ratings and audience size. By doing this, she has demonstrated that her career is more than just a personal accomplishment and that it represents a change in the distribution of power and influence in the national dialogue. Because of her race, gender, and affiliation with Fox News, Faulner has encountered preconceived notions about her beliefs and how she will react to significant topics throughout her career. She has stated in interviews that before hearing her point of view, people frequently assume to know where she stands on controversial issues. Faulner has stated that rather than seeing this as a drawback, it is a chance to challenge stereotypes and inflexible assumptions about how a black woman journalist should act or speak in news coverage by surprising listeners with subtlety and independent thought. Faulner has also detailed how these presumptions have materialized at particular times, such on The View, when hosts questioned her about her obligations to specific groups. She responded by emphasizing that her sense of obligation is not limited to any particular group but rather encompasses all individuals. Rather than fitting into preconceived notions based solely on identity, the network veteran has remarked that her objective as a journalist is to provide serious inquiry and a broad perspective to every topic. Both peers and media observers have taken notice of Faulner's position as a top journalist at Fox News. Many have observed that Faulner consistently adds dimension to her reporting by bringing elements of her own lived experience into debates while upholding professional rigor. She has increased public awareness of what it means to be a black woman leader in the media by doing this. You now understand Faulner's situation and the reason behind her 3-month hiatus. Which of Faulner's tragedies, dealing with family matters, deaths, and trauma, was the most shocking? Please share your opinions in the comments section. We appreciate you viewing this video, and we hope to see you in the next one.